honestly never saw myself doing anything even adjacent to 75 hard, but here we are. And I've done it. This video is 75 plus days in the making, and this is basically going to be my experience doing my own version of 75 hard, which I coined a 75 slight struggle, which I have now completed. You might be thinking it's definitely more than 75 days into this year, which it is. I started it at the start of this year, but I did have a trip to Houston, so I basically just took that week out of my 75 days, but I have, as of last week, I have completed my 75 slight struggle, 75 hard challenge. And this video is basically just going to be my experience doing it, any regrets I've got, what I learned along the way, what I found most helpful, and all that good stuff. So I feel like for context, it's important to know why I started it, because honestly, I never ever saw myself doing any form of challenge, anything even adjacent to 75 hard. But what happened last year was, towards the end of last year, I was very busy. I had a lot of trips away. I kept getting sick. I just was in like a rut. I had a lot going on in my personal life, and I was just down in the dumps, not enjoying training, not looking forward to training, which I don't always like jump for joy at the thought of going to the gym anyway. I've never ever experienced that level of inconsistency since I started my fitness journey, like over 6 years ago. And yeah, it was basically months of inconsistency with my training, inconsistency with my diet, not looking after myself properly, barely moving, working way too much and not really considering any sort of time for myself, and basically just being a little bit of a mess, to be honest. And I'm not even just talking about appearance wise, mentally a massive fucking mess was me at the end of last year. Like, I've spoken about it in vlogs, like I was not well in any way, shape or form towards the end of last year. I was basically sick of myself, like absolutely sick of myself, and nothing that I was doing was working. And I almost felt like an imposter as well, because I am an online coach, I'm a fitness coach, I do fitness influencing, I post fitness content, and I was like, I'm like in a massive rut and I can't seem to get myself out of it. I was like, am I gonna have to change careers? Like, my mind was going to some wild ass places, and it led to me just being very unhappy, quite unfit, to be honest, probably like the weakest and most unfit I've been in a long time, purely because of my inconsistency with my training, constantly having like stomach issues, and my diet was honestly awful. Like, some days eating loads, some days not eating much if I had loads to do, nowhere near my protein target, not caring about micronutrients, just a hot mess. And I'm going to actually pop in some pictures and videos and stuff of what I was looking like, because I decided that at the start of January I would take some progress pictures and videos, and from that point onwards I was starting my 75 slight struggle. I did a vlog basically explaining it, which I will pop here, which you can go and watch, and that's basically where I started it. That was my starting point, and here we are. And I basically turned to doing this 75 hard adapted challenge because I was just so sick of myself, like I said, and I just wasn't sticking to anything, and everything that I wanted to tie in was just consistency with some healthy goals. I did have some aesthetic goals in mind that I wanted to achieve, but it was really just to build up my consistency again and to prove to myself that I was a woman of my word, because the amount of times last year that I said to myself, I'm gonna get back on track this week, I'm gonna hit the gym 5 times this week, I'm gonna track my food again this week, I'm gonna get more protein in this week. Did I ever do it? Towards the end of last year? No. And the impact, I've spoken about this so many times, that constantly telling yourself, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, and then you don't follow through on it. You are subconsciously telling yourself you're actually not capable of doing that. And I feel like my self-esteem and self-confidence and just belief in myself and my own word and being able to trust myself was so shit last year as a result of that. So I was like, right, I'm gonna do something more structured, more of a challenge. People say if it ain't broken, don't fix it. It was broken, so I decided to just do something completely different, and I started my 75 slight struggle. And just to explain the reason why I opted for my own take on 75 hard and did a 75 slight struggle was because the reason it's called a slight struggle is because it's challenging, but not too challenging to the point where I'm not gonna be able to do it. I didn't go with 75 hard because the whole point of doing a challenge for me was to get get back in some good consistent habits that I cared about and to build consistency again. I don't care about reading X amount of pages of a book every single day. I don't want to get into the habit of doing 2 workouts a day. So for me, I wanted to use these 75 days basically to build habits that can take me throughout the rest of the year. Some of them might not work out and I might drop them, but that was the point of this challenge for me, not to go like balls to the wall, absolutely ham. That's not what I wanted to do, because also if I had tried to do 75 hard, the issue last year was I didn't care enough. Like, I didn't care, and I don't care about doing 2 workouts a day. I don't care about reading X amount of pages from a book every single day. I don't care about water intake because my water intake is already good. So it felt a little bit meaningless for me personally to do the actual original 75 hard, which is why I put my own spin on it. That's basically why I did a 75 slight struggle instead of the traditional 75 hard. Basically, I just wanted the goals that I'm working on to be in line with things I actually give a shit about, because you are way more likely to stick to it in that case. And it felt a little bit healthier for me personally to do this as opposed to, you know, trying to smash 2 workouts in a day. So I want to go through the goals sort of one by one. I watched Hannah Renee's video that she literally uploaded like yesterday. I was like, this could be good. This could be good because I didn't know how I wanted to structure this. And basically the way that she structured it was going sort of goal by goal and speaking about them a little bit. So that is what I'm going to do. So first goal that I set myself for my 75 slight struggle was 7,500 steps a day, and they need to be done outside. This might seem like, why is it 7,500 steps a day? Why isn't it 10,000 steps a day? 10,000 steps a day when you have a job that involves sitting on your laptop, sometimes editing videos for like 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 hours, depending on what sort of a video it is that I've got to do. Coaching, which obviously involves me sitting on a laptop or on my phone. All of this, doing 10,000 steps a day. People might look at like an online coach and think, oh, that's a really physical job. It's not. It's a very sedentary job. And I've had coaches in the past set me 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, 18,000 steps a day. And it gave me a newfound respect for, in the past where I might have set a client, I'll be honest, 10,000 steps a day and they've struggled with it. I fully get it now. I get it now. 10,000 steps a day is not something that happens by accident unless something about your day-to-day life involves a lot of movement. 7,500 steps a day, I still have to try for. I still have to try for 7,500 steps a day. I did do it most days. I didn't hit it every single day. Some may say she failed the challenge, but if you look at my steps, the past 3 months of 2023, my steps were averaging out at around 2,700 steps a day. I told you it was bad, okay? I told you it was bad. If you look at my steps for the first 3 months of this year, my steps are averaging out at around 7,200 steps a day. So it's not 7,500 steps a day, and it means that some days I've highly likely actually been a little bit under on my step count. Also, the reason why I set 7,500 steps a day is because it's achievable but also challenging. Like, for 7,500 steps a day, I still have to try for it, but it's not to the point where some days that I'm just not going to be able to do that unless I get up at like 5 a.m. to go and do it, which I'll be honest, I'm just not going to do that. It's just not something that I want to do. We came in slightly under, but I'm gonna give myself a tick for it because I feel like it's a huge increase on where I was last year. And hopefully you guys watching this video can take away from this video that just because something didn't go absolutely perfectly, it doesn't necessarily mean that you failed. Now, in some people's eyes, it will. In some people's eyes, it will, but not in mine, because I am much more of a believer in improving and consistency over time, not perfection. I wasn't perfect every single day, but there were more days where I hit my step count than I didn't, and that is much more than can be said for little old Amy at the end of 2023. So my second goal was to be getting up at 8 a.m. every single day. Now, this was a goal this is gonna seem very, very, very tone deaf. Amy, you dumb bitch, I have to get up at 5 a.m. every single day. I have to get up at 4:30 every single day. Heard, felt, noted, I get it. It is a little bit of a tone deaf goal to some people, but this is why it's my goal, not anyone else's. I work for myself, I'm self-employed, I work from home. and I don't need to be getting up any earlier. 9 a.m. every single day? I don't need to get up earlier than 9 a.m. There's some days where I will. If my day's really chocker, I'll have to get up at like 7 or 8, but there is no reason for me to be getting up before 9 a.m. every single day. However, I was finding that I was sleeping in later, I was sleeping in until like 9, 10, 11 a.m. and I felt like I wasn't getting the most out of my day, especially the days where I was sleeping in where I feel like I was getting too much sleep, which is definitely a thing, and I feel like it was making me feel even groggier towards the end of last year. So that's something that I wanted to work on as well, because I wanted to get more out of my days and feel more sort of like ready to roll, and also just build up a bit of resilience to doing things that I don't want to do. And I knew something I really wouldn't want to do would be get up at 8 a.m. every single day. So that is a goal that I did set myself. And to be fair to myself, other than a few weekends, I did actually get up at around 8 a.m. every single day. Between 8 and half 8 is when I've been getting up, which means I've been getting like 2 to 3 more hours out of my days compared to last year, and also just feeling a lot more awake and a lot more energized and sort of ready to go, and not as stressed with work either, because I really wasn't helping myself. I was getting busier and busier with work, but then because I was so tired and exhausted, I was sleeping a lot more. But then as soon as I woke up, it was like, I've got so much to do today, and I've lost like 3 hours of my day. Whereas I've actually found I've got more time for work and then also more time for myself in just having a slightly longer day by getting up earlier. Like I said, that's going to be a very tone deaf goal to some people, but that's the reason why I set that goal for myself. Your goal might be something to do with bedtime, for example. It might be being asleep by 10:30 at night every single night if sleep is something that you really struggle with. There's other ways to go about setting a sleep goal. It doesn't have to be waking up at X time. So yeah, that was my second goal of my 75 slight struggle, and I do feel a lot better for it. In terms of where I'm at now with that, I've actually, like the past 2 weeks, gone through a phase of I've not been able to sleep well at all, which has meant I've been going to bed, sleeping at like 2 a.m. Again, the cycle continues, waking up at like between 9 and 10 a.m, feeling really groggy. So as of this week, I've actually taken to setting my alarm for between 7:30 and 8 a.m. every single day, so that I'm getting up at that time, so that throughout the day I'm starting to feel more tired, and hopefully getting more tired before 2 a.m. again, because I feel like it was just a vicious cycle. Going to bed late, waking up late, going to bed late because I'm not tired because I woke up late, and it's just a bit of, it just gets into a mess. So right now I'm in the phase of trying to redo my sleep cycle, because I don't know what happened the past 2 weeks, but it's just gone absolutely tits up. But this is something I'm working on getting back into again, because I do feel like I get a lot more out of my days, and especially now that we're approaching summer and it's light outside, it's a lot easier for me to be getting up as well, and getting some sunlight in. And that leads me on to my next goal, which was sunlight in the first hour of each day. Obviously there are meant to be like supposed health benefits to getting in sunlight within the first hour of the day, but honestly, one of the reasons why I set myself this goal was because in conjunction with like the sleep thing, I would wake up on a morning and immediately go on my phone, and I would just be scrolling on my phone for honestly some mornings like 45 minutes, doing work, doing emails, just going on TikTok, going on Instagram, and before I know it, I've been on my phone for like the first 45 minutes of my day. And I find if I start my day off like that, the rest of my day I cannot get off my phone. It's like I'm glued to it. It sounds stupid because a lot of my work revolves around me having to be on my phone. I have to be on social media, I have to be on WhatsApp, I have to be posting on social media and all that sort of stuff, and speaking to my clients on WhatsApp. It's a very like phone heavy job, but the more time that I spend mindlessly on social media, so just like doom scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on my Instagram feed until I get the notification where it says you caught up on like 6 days worth of posts. There was like a direct correlation between the amount of time spent on my phone doing that and how shit I felt. Like just low energy, bad mood, just feeling like very, it's not even like I'm looking at things thinking, oh, I wish my life was like that, or like falling into the traps of comparison or anything like that. It's just something about being on social media so much mindlessly, just scrolling, and it just makes me feel like shit. And I was so sick of it. But like I said, if I start my day off doing that, I find it really, really, really hard to prise my hands away from my phone throughout the day. So even though, yes, there are health benefits to getting that sunlight in within the first hour of the day, and it does also help with your sleep, which is now something that I am making sure I'm focusing on as well. And like I said, it's easier because we're approaching summer, we've got those lighter mornings, so it's a lot easier now. It stopped me, it acted as like a buffer from me and doom scrolling on my phone, which is one of the worst things that I can do for my own mental well-being. And I'm glad I've got like the self-awareness to like clock myself for that. And this is something that I'm actually very passionate about and I want to keep doing going forwards because I feel so much better. And don't get me wrong, there's been the odd morning where I've not bothered to like even just like sit in here. It's very light in the living room and getting some sunlight through the windows. There's been mornings where I've just laid in bed and I have gone on my phone a couple of mornings during the challenge or even after. So yeah, having the habit of having some form of like sunlight within the first hour of the day helped me sort of sever my connection with my phone first thing on a morning, which then throughout the day has a knock-on effect on my day. And I definitely noticed a positive impact. For context, for like my overall screen time, back end of last year, like the final 3 months, I was averaging, and by the way, please know I'm not just on my phone, like it does involve work. Obviously a lot of work goes through my phone, so please do be aware of that, don't judge. But my screen time was between 13 and 14 hours for November and December in particular. October I think was 12. November and December was between 13 and 14 hours a day. My screen time averages the past 3 months, other than 1 week in February, which was the birthday sale, which my screen time was through the roof because it was a lot of work to be getting on with and it all involved my phone. My screen time has been between like 9 and 11 hours a day, which is not like a drastic cut, but trust me, it's a big cut from where it was before, and my screen time just seemed to be getting worse and worse. So I'm really happy with it, and I noticed that I do also just feel more energized, better throughout the day. I feel like my whole like cycle when it comes to like my sleep and stuff is more in check when I'm getting sunlight in the first hour, more energized. And if I'm like getting up and sort of like lounging around and like mooching about and not really getting sunlight in or getting like fresh air even in, I do find that it takes me a lot longer to start my day. So I definitely recommend the whole sunlight within the first hour thing. It is the truth, you know, the proof is in the pudding. I felt a lot better throughout the day, went on my phone way less, screen time was way lower, got started with my day a lot quicker, energy levels higher throughout the day, and just feeling a lot better. Sleep cycles a lot better as well. So my 4th goal was more nutrition related, and like I mentioned towards the back end of last year, my nutrition was really bad. Protein through the floor, nutrients through the floor, fiber through the floor, everything just very much on a downward spiral. Some days I was eating loads, some days I was eating a lot less. My food was just so inconsistent. Like the key word for the past 3 months of 2023 for me was pure inconsistency, and it was just not benefiting me at all, and I felt like shit. I'm not one of those people who believes that like, oh, like, yeah, 100% whole foods all the time. Like, that's not me. I'm more of an 80-20 person, but honestly my diet towards the end of last year was not 80-20. It was more like 60-40, and I felt it. Like, I really did feel it. So I wanted to really kick myself into gear in January. This did entail also eating in a deficit, which I do think is important to signpost, because especially when I'm going to go over like the changes and show you some before and afters, it's not just that like doing these 5 things got me to where I am now. I was eating in a deficit, which will have helped me with in terms of like losing body fat and all that sort of stuff. So I was eating in a deficit. I was aiming to improve my protein intake in particular. That was a key focus. Stick to the deficit obviously, but then also varying my micronutrients. So I can get very like in the habits of just having like broccoli, and that's like all I'll have. I have done so much better the first 3 months of this year when it comes to my food. I've been tracking my food pretty much daily. There's been the odd day where something's come up and we've ended up being out all day and I've not been able to track, but I would say 90% of the day since I started this, I have tracked and I've successfully been able to complete this, and the results are I stuck to a deficit, so I have dropped body fat a lot better. My recovery between my training sessions is a lot better because I'm focusing on my protein and making sure that yes, I'm eating in a deficit, but that I'm eating enough and I'm not having these crazy fluctuations day to day. My micronutrient intake has been a lot better. Like, I've had a lot more variation. I've been trying different fruits. When I'm making a salad, I'm not just putting one form of green in it, I'm putting multiple forms of greens. I've been having carrots, I've been having onions, I've been having a lot of different fruits and vegetables. I've also some days been supplementing with a greens powder, but I would always recommend trying to get it from food where you can. As a result, obviously my fiber intake has been higher and I feel a lot healthier in myself. My gut feels a lot better because, oh my God, my gut towards the back end of last year, it wasn't just that I'd like gained body fat from moving less and inconsistency with my eating and not training properly. It wasn't that. It was also the fact that I feel like I was so inflamed from, first of all, eating things that I know irritate me. I know that lactose irritates me, but I was still eating it. I was having some weeks like 2 pizzas a week. Like, I was not eating well at all. My sleep was awful, which obviously will increase your cortisol levels, which increases water retention and bloating. Everything was just sort of like, I kept eating things that were irritating me, like I said. My diet was so inconsistent. I wasn't getting many micronutrients in. My fiber intake was not good, protein intake was not good, and I feel like I just had a lot of inflammation as a result because of the food choices that I was making. Now, got a lot better. I still have the odd day where I clearly have eaten something that's irritated my stomach and it's not quite right and I feel a bit watery, or like around my period I still struggle with that, but it's so much better now just from being more consistent with my eating a similar amount each day, focusing on my protein, getting in a variation of micronutrients, not just one thing, and upping my fiber intake and making sure that I'm tracking that so that I can actually measure that I'm sticking to this goal. And I have ticked that off successfully, and that's something that I'm going to be continuing with because I'm still actually cutting down a little bit at the moment now. I'm not quite finished yet, but 75 days wasn't really like the end goal for a cut anyway. It was 75 days to boost myself and like back into some form of consistency, basically give myself a kick up the arse, and I'm really happy with that. And obviously tracking won't be for everyone, but I don't have an issue with it and I've never had an issue with it, so it is something that I do. But if you don't want to do tracking but you want a nutrition goal, it could literally just be introducing more micronutrients to your diet. So let's say you only eat broccoli, maybe expanding that to maybe have carrots, maybe making like mixed salads where you can put loads of different things in there, upping your protein intake. You can do that without tracking by just adding more of the quantity of the protein sources to your meals. Like, there's ways around having like a nutrition goal in there without it having to be tracking, but that was mine and I feel a lot better for it. And my fifth and final goal was, of course, to do with training. So my training goal was training 5 times a week using my program, which I made last September, and cardio 40 minutes a week. So the reason I set the training goal was because that was the number of weight sessions that I wanted to stick to, and the reason that I set the cardio goal was because when I did a cut last year, I actually realized I really enjoy how I feel after cardio. Not only that, I have been a bit of a lazy twat and ignored my cardiovascular health completely for years. I've probably done, not even probably, I have done more cardio in the past year than I have done in the past 4 to 5 years combined. Like, I have really upped my cardio and it's something that I want to be more aware of. Like, it sounds stupid, but I went on like a long walk, I wouldn't say a hike, a long walk around Ilkley Moor, which if you're from the Yorkshire area you might know where that is. And I remember just thinking like about people in my life that they're not of the age where they shouldn't be able to do that, but they wouldn't be able to do that because of their health and because like they don't move around much and they don't get much activity in, and it's not because they can't, it is by choice. Like, it is a choice thing. And I just remember thinking like, for as long as possible I want to be able to go and do cool shit and go and see cool shit, go and sightsee, go and do these things. I don't ever want the fact that I've made a choice to not look after a certain area of my health to be the reason why I can't go and do things. So that's something that I really want to keep working on. So I still do cardio now. I've actually recently, for my April challenge, we're doing 60 minutes cardio a week. I'm really enjoying cardio. So With that being said, I absolutely smashed the cardio goal. I've tried new things. I've tried running on the treadmill. I've tried using the bike, which, by the way, the bike is actually so good and it feels a lot less mentally taxing than the Stairmaster. Obviously the Stairmaster has been in there, but yeah, I've been trying running again, like running intervals on the treadmill, bike, Stairmaster, variations of cardio, and I've been absolutely loving it. I love how I feel afterwards, and I also just feel good knowing that I'm looking after my health as more of a whole, so I'm really happy with how that went. Now, when it comes to weight training, I will be honest, there have been weeks where things have come up and it's meant I've not been able to get 5 sessions in a week. So I am quite comfortable in saying I did fail the training portion of this. However, I have still had more consistency with my training the first 3 months of this year than I did the last 4 months of last year. Like, there hasn't been a week where I've just not trained, or I've said I'm going to train and I just don't go and do it. I have hit 4 sessions minimum a week every single week since I started doing this. So I am personally very happy with how it's gone. But yes, in terms of the actual 5 times a week, I did fail. But I do think this is sort of something I've reflected on, which is I'm not even sure if I do want to be hitting the gym 5 days a week. I don't think I enjoy training 5 days a week, so I don't know why I've been forcing it. Now, I might do that if I can find a way to split it that's more enjoyable, but I don't really like hitting upper body 2 times a week. And I feel like that's why I don't go 5 times a week, because I'll get my lower days in, I'll do one upper day, and then I don't want to do the other one. So that's something I'm sort of reevaluating at the moment, and I might change my mind. I might be like, no, I do want to do upper 2 times a week, but I'm sort of reevaluating if I do want to be training 5 times a week, because I don't know if I actually realistically do. So even though it's a fail, I'm still very happy with it because I have done 4 times minimum a week, and the cardio I've absolutely smashed. Some weeks, again, I've absolutely surpassed it as well. So I'm really happy with how that has gone, and it just feels so good to be getting stronger on my lifts again, rebuilding the strength back that I lost, rebuilding the muscle back that I lost, and feeling healthy, feeling like I'm moving my body and going on the days where I can't be arsed. Like, that is the key. There was the first week of doing my 75 slight struggle, it was so easy because I was like, the motivation, adrenaline rush from it, it was so easy. And then as it got into week 2, week 3, there were days where I was like, I could just not go to the gym. And on those days I said to myself, no, we're not doing this, because this is what I did last year. This is how I got into the mess I got into last year, by just saying to myself, well, I don't have, and I could just not go. Like, I could go, or saying to myself, which is, I know myself like the palm of my hand now, saying to myself, oh, well, I don't need to go today because I could actually do this session on X day instead. You're not going to do it when that day rolls around. You're going to come up with the same excuse and then be like, oh, well, next week I'll be more consistent with it. Not doing that, put the pump in the brakes. And there is a fine line, which I am learning, between listening to your body when you are genuinely unwell or you really need to give your body a rest, and telling your body when to shut the fuck up. Or telling your brain when to shut the fuck up. Because truthfully, if I listened to my body every single day, there'd be weeks where I just don't train at all. But that's not good for me, because I'm not, you know, it's not the end of the world if I don't train every single week, but I don't believe it's good for my body to listen to every single thing that my brain wants to do, because my brain isn't always working in my favor. Sometimes it wants to take the path of least resistance, and if it's a really CBA day, the path of least resistance is to not go to the gym. But is that the right thing to do? No. So let this be a reminder. Yes, listen to your body, but it's really important to know when to push and when to pull. When to be like, okay, no, I really do need to rest, my body's telling me something, or my brain is actually just trying to talk me out of this and I'm being a little bit lazy. Because that was me last year. Like, other than the times where I was really unwell, which there was a lot of times where I was really unwell last year, a lot of the other times I was just being lazy. Like, there is no other word for it. I was just being lazy. I couldn't be asked to go and I didn't go. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for myself. I was being lazy. And yeah, so when those thoughts were creeping in my brain as this sort of 75 days went on, and it gets harder the longer you've been doing it, because the motivation, just the like adrenaline rush of, oh, this is new and exciting, fades very quickly, like very quickly. So be prepared for that. But telling yourself, reminding yourself that those behavior patterns that you form don't serve you. They're not acting in your best interest. So clock those thoughts as they come into your brain, and like quick actions, like Mel Robbins' 5-second rule of like, it takes your brain 5 seconds to talk you out of doing something. Genuinely life-changing. When it comes to getting up on a morning, life-changing. When it comes to getting out of the door and just starting to walk towards your car or towards the gym if you walk there, doing that and actually like having some momentum and action behind what you're saying you're going to do, and quickly acting on it before your brain can be like, well, we could do this another day, or well, can't really be asked to do that today. Don't even give your brain the opportunity. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule, look it up. So the 75 days were definitely not perfect, and like I said, I had to take a break when I went to Houston, and I definitely didn't absolutely smash every single goal every single day. However, it is such an improvement on where I was at last year, and this is what I wanted. I wasn't aiming for perfection, and I think this is why I've always strayed away from challenges, and why I want to sort of encourage doing them in a different way. I don't think challenges should be these rigid things where you set it and then you can't change it. I think, you know, there should be like weekly sort of feedbacks with yourself, like what went well and what didn't, and whatever didn't go well, is it maybe something that you've done wrong, like you've not managed your time well, which means you need to manage your time better to get the training sessions in, for example, or is it that you've overshot the goal a little bit and actually you need to readjust it to make it more attainable. So let's say you set yourself a goal of 14,000 steps a day, but you work an office job and you have kids at home and there is no way you can get 14,000 steps in a day. Then after maybe a week, you would readjust that and change the goal. I don't believe that challenges need to be these like set in stone, rigid things. I think they should be open to changing as you go through to make them, yes, they should be challenging. That's the whole point of a challenge, but they need to be realistic. And if you haven't been realistic from the offset, it might mean that you need to make some adjustments, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's what puts me off like the original 75 hard, is it's just too strict for me personally. For some people it will really work, the people that really need that discipline, but for me, like the idea of like I could get to day 56 and if I mess one thing up I've got to start all over again, that sort of for me just goes against everything that I believe in. When it comes to fitness and health, that just goes against absolutely everything that I believe in. So that's not something that I personally have practiced during this, but I am really, really, really proud of myself for actually being consistent with things again, sticking to something, sticking to my word and proving to myself that I can do the things that I say I want to do. It's just a case of mind over matter and not listening to those little things in my brain that are like, don't do that, like, oh, this would be easier. Because sometimes the path of like least resistance, like I said, is not the path that is actually best for you. And this is what this has basically taught me. And let this be a lesson in consistency, because this is where I am at now. And yes, I've had like numerical goals to hit, like my calorie target and my protein target, but truly like over this 75 days, I've not been sweating the small stuff. I've not been thinking like, oh no, like I'm 70 calories over on this day, or I'm 4 grams under on the protein. I've been focusing on consistency over time for my 75 slight struggle. I've not been aiming for perfection every single day. I've been focusing on consistency over time. All these goals are something that I wanted to be consistent with and build up from a place of complete inconsistency, no routine, no structure, no real even habits left anymore. I've needed to rebuild that from the ground up by just focusing on being consistent with things that really mattered to me. And as a result, it has tied in with my aesthetic goals of leaning out a little bit, building back some muscle mass that I definitely lost in the past few months of 2023, because I did start to lose muscle mass because I wasn't eating right, I wasn't training properly, I wasn't training enough, I wasn't training hard enough, and my protein was poor. Like, I did end up losing some muscle mass towards the end of last year. That's what happens when you've got like 3 to 4 months of really quite severe inconsistency, like some weeks not training at all. That's what happens when you fall into that sort of a hole. So now, 75-ish, like I said, days on, to be feeling leaner, which is something that I wanted to feel aesthetically, and to be feeling like I have started to build back some muscle mass that I lost. I'm really happy and I feel comfortable in myself again, which is invaluable to me. That is something that I really wanted to feel out of this challenge. I wanted to feel better mentally, yes. I wanted to build some habits back up, yes. I wanted to feel like I was giving myself the time of day again, yes. But I did also want to feel more comfortable in my body. I wanted to feel less inflamed. I wanted to drop some body fat. I wanted to build back what I'd lost. And I'm definitely on the way to being where I want to be with that. I'm not there yet. This isn't the end of my deficit journey, but I'm definitely getting there, and I'm really happy that I decided to take on this challenge. And I'm happy that I just sort of did my own thing and I didn't let the fact that it's not a traditional 75 hard put me off. So if you want to do something like this but the 75 hard rules are sort of putting you off and it's not really your thing, don't be shy to just make something up. All about trying to build things up throughout the month, trying to stay consistent, focusing on some goals that matter to you, and most importantly, just feeling good mentally, physically, because yes, obviously there's a physical transformation in this, but the mental benefits aren't even necessarily all tied to feeling better about how I look. Like, for example, the screen time one is huge and I feel so much better in myself mentally. I feel more mentally clear. I feel like I've got more energy. I feel less down in the dumps. I feel less anxious. I feel less sort of like agitated even. I feel like when I spend a lot of time on social media, it just makes me feel very irritable and antsy, and I don't like feeling like that because it's not really very me. I don't like to feel like that. So, you know, aesthetic stuff aside and feeling better about that mentally, everything else just feeling a lot better mentally. And yeah, I don't have any regrets about doing it. I'm really happy with how it went. Yes, it wasn't perfect, but I knew that I wasn't aiming for absolute perfection every single day. I wanted consistency over time. That's what I preach. Consistency is not about being perfect every single day. Consistency is about what you are doing more often than not. So if more often than not, you're skipping the gym, you're not tracking your food, you get in 4 hours of sleep every single night, that is your consistency. If what you are doing more often than not is tracking your food, getting 7 hours of sleep a night, hitting the gym 3 times a week, doing 30 minutes of cardio a week, that is what you are doing consistently. Now, that doesn't mean you do that every single day. Like I said, that's what you are doing more often than not. That is consistency in my opinion. It doesn't have to be perfect every single day. And I think that really sets people up for failure going in with that mindset to anything, even outside of the fitness world, because nothing will be perfect. Life happens, shit gets in the way. And if I was someone who was aiming for absolute perfection with this challenge, I would have given up on week 2 when something happened and it meant that I couldn't tick off one of my goals, but I didn't. I reflected on what was going well, what I needed to do. Like, I remember on day 1, I journaled and there was something that I'd struggled with, which was getting up. I'd really struggled with getting up in the morning, so I wrote down I need to be getting to bed earlier on a night time to make it easier for me to get up on a morning. To reach a goal, you don't have to be perfect, guys. You just need a good baseline level of consistency. That is all you need, and I promise you will reach the goal that you are working towards, I promise, especially when it comes to fitness. So yeah, that is this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is definitely something a little bit different to me, but as I started this year basically with a vlog explaining what I was going to be doing, I feel like I owed it to you guys to give you guys an update on how it went. And in terms of like my favorite habits, honestly, all of them. And I feel like that's because I picked habits myself that were personal to me, that mattered to me. Whereas if I'd have done 75 hard, I would have been dropping the book thing by now. I'd have been dropping the water thing because it's something I do anyway. And I'd have been dropping the 2 workouts a day. Like, I wanted to use this to build habits that I want to continue with for the rest of the year. And these are goals that I want to continue with consistently for the rest of the year. Not every single day will be perfect. I can't promise I'm going to get up at 8 AM on a weekend every single weekend. Consistently, these are all goals which I want to keep up with. Obviously, some of them might need tweaking. Cardio, now I'm doing 60 minutes a week. Training, I might knock the frequency down for my weights, but overall, like the framework of these goals, I'm really happy with the goals that I picked. They make me feel good, I feel more energized, and I feel better in myself mentally and physically. So I'm really, really happy with it. If you have done like a 75 hard, 75 slight struggle, any form of challenge, if you were doing this with me even, because you should be finishing around the same point, let me know how it's gone on, or if you are currently still doing it, let me know how it's going. But yeah, if you've any questions about my 75 slight struggle, let me know and I will get back to you. But yeah, give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to when you haven't already, and if you've anything that you want to comment on, leave it below, because comments and likes do help me out a lot. It helps to let YouTube know that you guys are engaging with my content, and it pushes it out a bit more, and basically means I get to keep making videos. So if you do enjoy them, do leave a comment, do like, subscribe if you want to and you haven't already. But yeah, I will see you in the next video. Have an amazing Sunday. Happy 75 slight struggling if you are still doing it. Goodbye.